Dallas Mavericks fans and MFFLs. The Dallas Mavericks took down the Washington Wizards last night. Final score, Dallas Mavericks 112, the Washington Wizards 104. The Dallas Mavericks are now still sitting in the 8th seed right now, but 6.5 games out of the 1st seed. This team is now on a 5-game winning streak with a 31-23 record. It was not the prettiest game, I'm going to say, overall from an offensive standpoint, especially earlier on, but it was a team effort. And the Dallas Mavericks in the end just had more talent, more depth, and to me, that's the biggest thing that we're going to be able to see for this team, from this team going forward. Adding PJ Washington, adding Daniel Gafford, that's just going to continue to add different elements to this team. We obviously know, I guess you want to say for the most part of this season, when you have had Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving healthy in the same lineup, Tim Hardaway Jr. has kind of been that third scorer. I'm going to say third consistent scorer for the most part for the team this year. But now we're looking at other guys being able to take over that role so that we're not having guys completely having to just rely on the top end, I guess you can say, of this lineup, this rotation. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, those are obviously your heavy lifters. And yesterday, it was a game where we're seeing Luka Doncic, I believe, come away with 26 points. And it was not a game where you saw Luka Doncic having to overload and overextend. And we've become a little accustomed to some of those things over the last, the last couple seasons, especially with just the lineup and the rotations and the team just not being as deep and overall just as talented as maybe the rest of the Western Conference. Luka Doncic just had to carry so much more of the load. That's why you bring in a guy like Kyrie Irving. That was very important to bring him in because it's going to take a little bit of the load off of Luka Doncic, obviously. But we're seeing some of just the easy baskets that we're able to get now, whether it's the alley-oop variation or just being able to dump it down to a guy like Daniel Gafford, who has a little bit more of around the basket game than even a guy like now, 20-year-old, yesterday, his birthday, 20-year-old Derek Lively, who should be coming back after the All-Star break. We're now going to be able to see a little bit of a change of guard. So, and honestly, I have a few questions that going forward that could potentially be very big going into the next, the next portion of the season after the All-Star break. But before we get into that, let's talk about this game a little bit from yesterday. Once again, yesterday, the Dallas Mavericks defeat the Washington Wizards. Final score, Dallas 112, the Washington Wizards 104. The Dallas Mavericks again sitting with a 31-23 record. That home record, I guess you can say, is starting to get a little better over this last couple weeks. But the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to continue to chip away and just be more, be more overall balance, because yesterday it was an issue and one thing I will say, some of the problems that I was, again, taking a little bit away yesterday is some of the, I guess you want to say, the bad habits this team still has at certain points. Sometimes it's forcing threes. It's just taking threes when they're not really falling. And also, I feel like a lot of times, it's not just the forcing of the three-point shot sometimes. It's the ability that we do have players that can get to the rim and find some baskets. But for some reason, we still sometimes find ourselves settling. And that allows bad teams to hang around. Or when we do get up on some of these better teams, it allows them to come back. Because, again, you're not, I guess you want to say, putting your foot on their necks and kind of trying to choke the life out of them. And that comes in the sense of saying, go at the rim, attack the rim, try to get to the free throw line as much as you can. To me, that's what helped the Dallas Mavericks. And we saw some issue yesterday that Dallas Mavericks were having, just get the Washington Wizards being in the bonus and finding some foul trouble. But overall, it was still, I guess you're going to say, a very good team effort, because overall, the NBA season is very long. Every game's not going to be pretty. Every game's not going to be some blowout, even against teams that you seem to be much better than on paper. You're going to have to come in and show your work and actually be able to put some, I guess you want to say, just show some physicality. And that's what to me, the Dallas Mavericks have now, bringing in a Daniel Gafford. It's the physical aspect of a guy like Daniel Gafford. And to me, that's going to be more interesting talking about what exactly is going to be Derek Lively's role going forward. Are we going to be looking at him as a main starter? Are we going to be looking at him as a guy that's going to be sharing time evenly with the Daniel Gafford? Are we going to be looking at where you see Derek Lively find himself coming off the bench in a few situations this season? I'm not really sure, because we do know Jason Kidd is always a wild card. There's never, I guess you want to say, a set in stone way that he likes to do things. It kind of goes game by game, whether it's gameplay adjustments or just pretty much how the rotation consistency. We'll see. But yesterday, Kyle Kuzma, 23 points. Avia, 25 points yesterday. It was just a great, I guess you want to say, an effort by a team with 9 wins, the Washington Wizards. But they do have some guys that can kind of get their own buckets here and there. And of course, it's come over the last couple of days. They're talking about Kyle Kuzma. Seems to be, reportedly, maybe he nixed a trade to the Dallas Mavericks because he has his own timeline. And to me, I personally believe this is a young guy. Kyle Kuzma has his own mind. He seems like one of those players. He got his ring with the Lakers, I believe, that COVID year, or in the bubble year, I guess you want to say. And at this point, it seems that's that's a guy that just wants to get his numbers. That's a guy that just wants to be in his own environment, and nothing's wrong with that. If that's the type of way I guess you see your career going. But the Dallas Mavericks had bigger fish to fry, and I'm gonna say just adding PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, that to me is just more of the better overall acquisition. I guess route I would have loved to take, because that to me just makes this team more versatile. We're not necessarily getting any guys that are going to be asking for their own buckets, that are going to be trying to get their own shot and call for it just at any other point. So you do know Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving are obviously your heavy lifters, your top two, I'm going to say. But having guys like PJ Washington, who did have 9 points yesterday, it wasn't the best shooting effort from him. In 36 minutes, 4 of 11 on field goals, 0 of 5 from 3. So we're going to have to clean that up. But again, we're still talking about a guy. It's only his second game with the Dallas Mavericks. He's still trying to get just as comfortable as anybody else would be coming to a new situation mid-season. 1 of 2 from the free throw line, but he was still going to be a defensive presence. That's the biggest thing I noticed from PJ Washington, is he is a nice defensive presence, even playing a little bit on the perimeter. He's able to move his feet. He knows how to use his body, and he is very physical when it comes to attacking rebounds. That's the biggest thing I saw from PJ Washington yesterday. 5 rebounds in the mix. So this guy's still a work in progress. He's 25 years old, so he's still a kid that he's not really hitting his prime. Usually at 26, 27, 28, that's where guys start to hit their prime. So PJ Washington, he's still a work in progress, but I'm glad that we're going to be able to see his development on this team. Daniel Gafford yesterday in 24 minutes, and I felt there were some certain junctures where Jason Kidd maybe could have gotten him a little bit more burned, but these numbers were just jumping off the board. And I will say later on in the game, the lineup that kind of was, I guess we're finding a little bit more of a footing later on in that fourth quarter. Tonight I won't have an issue with it. Just yesterday, I guess I'll say I wouldn't have an issue with that, just because Maxi Kleber, the lineup that he was in at that point, they were starting to make a little headspace. So Daniel Gafford just seemed to find himself maybe on that situational type, I guess you want to say, just ended up on the bench in those moments. But I see going forward, he's going to be a major contributor. But again, Daniel Gafford yesterday, 16 points, 17 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds, 10 defensively, obviously. But in 24 minutes, 7 of 13 on field goals, 2 of 3 from the free throw line, and a big 5 blocks. I repeat, 5 blocks from Daniel Gafford in 24 minutes, 16 points, 17 rebounds. This guy is just going to be a godsend for this team going forward. And if we can just stay healthy and get Derek Lively back, the rest of the NBA, forget just the Western Conference, the rest of the NBA better be on full notice, because this team is going to have some pieces that should give some teams some trouble. And I'm talking about some of the better teams. But Kyrie Irving yesterday, 26 points. We're talking about a guy, 4 assists, 7 rebounds, 2 of 7 on 3, 10 of 19 on field goals, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. Just a nice, steady, solid game from Kyrie. But Luka Doncic in 8 of 16, so that's 50%. We're talking about 50%, 2 of 7 on threes, which I talked about. I like to see him take a few less when they're not falling earlier, but that's also the threat of Luka Doncic's game, is that you have to worry about him on all 3 levels, especially adding in his passing ability. So I'm okay with Luka Doncic taking those threes just to keep teams honest at certain points, but as long as we don't overdo it, because sometimes we can overdo it. But Luka Doncic with a 26-point triple-double yesterday. 26 points, 11 rebounds, 15 assists. It was just easy. It was easy just assist at this point is the way I'm going to be looking at us going forward, because Daniel Gafford and just some of the things that he's able to give. PJ Washington, obviously we do know Derrick Jones Jr., a guy that's always going to be able to kind of get you some buckets here and there, just in transition, just easily at the basket. It's just a good sight to see. And Jaden Hardy, to me, is a guy that continues to grow. Also, we can talk about Josh Green, I will, in a second. But right now, Jaden Hardy, 10 points in 13 minutes. Again, that point per minute rating he's at right now is just continuing to flow easily. This is a guy that I can see going forward. If we're able to unload a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., maybe if we're seeing a different piece, and maybe a team just wants one of those guys, those microwave guys. I talk about Tim Hardaway Jr., who is potentially at any certain point going to be a guy that kind of is just your X factor and can break them some games for a championship contending team. So Tim Hardaway Jr. could be a guy. We'll see exactly how what his situation is for this team going forward during the offseason, more importantly. But I feel like Jaden Hardy, if he continues to grow, he's going to easily, going into next season, be able to take over that Tim Hardaway Jr. role off the bench, just coming in, getting buckets. That's your job. But also, what I will say what Jaden Hardy has over a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. is just the ability that he is starting to still grow, because you're watching him, and he is more of a capable passer at certain points, but he has just more of an all-around game, getting to the basket, the mid-range jumper, you're seeing him utilize a little bit more now. Jaden Hardy is a young guy that I'm glad we're able to hang on to, because he could be a major player for this team going forward. Also, Josh Green, 13 points yesterday in 29 minutes, 5 of 8 on field goals, 1 of 3 from the three-point line, 2 of 3 on free throws. Excuse me, I guess you'll say. 2 steals, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block. Josh Green is just going to be that role player going forward. Much smaller, but again, I'll kind of say I compare him to a guy just of his role, not actually the player that he is, but of his role potentially for this team going forward. Derrick Jones Jr., Josh Green, those are the type players that I can liken to a guy like Sean Marion. Just kind of one of those guys, he does a little bit of everything, whether it's going to be the hustle play, whether it's just playing some solid defense, and just getting out in transition, things like that. We're going to be able to continue to see Josh Green, another guy I'm glad we're able to hang on to in these trades that we did make. So the Dallas Mavericks have something to cook with going forward, but as long as you have a guy like Luka Doncic, another guy like Kyrie Irving, and then you're adding in pieces, your PJ Washington, Daniel Gaffords, Josh Greens, your Tim Hardaway Jr. at a certain point, Jaden Hardy, Derrick Jones Jr., some of these other pieces, but Maxi Kleber, again, some of these guys that are going to be able to contribute going forward, and not even counting guys like Derek Lively and Dante Exum, who should be back. And we know those are very much so major contributors for this team going forward. We're going to be in a nice space going forward. I believe it. I truly do. And the player of the game for yesterday was Luka Doncic. 26 points, 11 rebounds, 15 assists. He also had a steal and 2 blocks. And one of the blocks early on in the first quarter was just a definitive, nice play defensively from Luka Doncic, who has stepped up majorly on that side, the end of the ball. I guess you're going to say that side of the ball this season. And I don't believe it's being talked about enough. But Luka Doncic is a very viable defender at this point. I'm not calling him lockdown. I'm not calling him a shutdown defender. But Luka Doncic is showing himself to be very capable. And all it is about effort. And now that he's having to do much less on offense, which now I believe yesterday he was his usage rate was sitting about 26% or 27%, something like that. Which again, we're used to Luka Doncic in a 35, 36 plus type comparison, I guess. Luka Doncic, he's just again showing himself to be more of an all-around player than believed in the last few seasons, I guess you can say. Take a look at one of these blocks yesterday. Just a nice momentum play for the Dallas Mavericks.
We should Tyus Jones. Jones determined to drive it. Oh, and a swat out of bounds.
Oh. He didn't give up on that play, though. He stayed in pursuit.
Exactly what I'm talking about. So again, Luka Doncic should have himself very comfortably finding himself back his way into the MVP conversation, I guess you can say. And I feel like if we could just continue to win, the Dallas Mavericks are sitting on a 5-game win streak right now, with the possibility to take it to 6 in the last game, I guess you would say the next game, but the last game before the All-Star break. Luka Doncic, his name will continue to ring. His name will continue to move up as one of those major MVP candidates. And I want to see where this team, I guess, can kind of just push our ceiling, because many things have been said about the Dallas Mavericks. Can the Luka-Kyrie dynamic work? Can Luka Doncic play defense? Are the Dallas Mavericks ever going to find some capable low-post men, big men, I guess you can say? And we're now starting to see I guess you can say again, the change of the guard. And the Dallas Mavericks, we can just continue to grow, continue to progress, and continue to get healthy. We're going to be a dangerous team going forward. With the Dallas Mavericks sitting here with the 31-23 record, 8th in the Western Conference right now. I believe we're tied with the Sacramento Kings, who are in the 7th seed. We have one more win, we have one more win and also one more loss than them. But we are only 1 game back of the New Orleans Pelicans, who are sitting in the 5th seed, and the Phoenix Suns right now with only 6 games behind. So the Dallas Mavericks are in full control right now of their own destiny, I guess you can say. It's as simple as that. Like I said, the biggest question, going forward, I know what we kind of believed the concept would be, or the premise of this, I guess you want to say the way that the rotation and the lineup is going to stack up going forward. But now you're starting to have to ask yourself, Daniel Gafford playing the way that he is it going to be smarter to leave him in that starting rotation and then have Derek Lively coming off? And again, they're going to be playing about similar minutes. And Derek Lively maybe a little bit more still, because he is that young developing guy. But just some major questions going forward. I'm going to say to start right now, to be very clear. I have full belief in Derek Lively. That hasn't changed anything, and I'm very comfortable with him still being the starter if that's the route we choose to take. It's just now that we do have some options and some different directions that we could potentially go, especially depending on matchup to matchup. So the Dallas Mavericks still have some potential to move up. Like I said, we're only 1 game behind the 5th seed right now, so a long season to go. The All-Star break is coming, I believe the 16th to the 18th, so the Dallas Mavericks are going to have a well-planned rest for some of these guys, especially getting a Derek Lively and Dante Exum back after the All-Star break. Just letting Luka Doncic, we know he's going to be a part of these All-Star weekend festivities, but usually I'm not expecting to see Luka Doncic do anything too crazy in the All-Star game. He usually tries to take it as easy as he can while still being some way entertaining. So Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, as long as we can get our guys through against just this tough stretch, meaning just health-wise, that the team has kind of dealt with, and just get everybody back rolling, we're going to be in a great place. And I think the Dallas Mavericks, again, are going to be dark horse teams. And we heard Derek Lively say it a little bit. He believes this is a team that should be, I guess the rest of the league, but I'm going to say the Western Conference especially, should be very aware of. So going forward, the Dallas Mavericks have lots of room to make some noise. So I appreciate you guys for all the support. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share. And let me know what you think down below in the comment section about the direction of the Dallas Mavericks going forward throughout the rest of the season. I appreciate you guys for all the support once again. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.